Peak has been out for just under 3 weeks, and there is already a cheater in the speedrunning scene. Peak has been gaining some traction in speedrunning lately, with crazy times, the main runners being Chockler, Fizzu, and Kenny Shield. In all of these speedruns, no one came even close to a sub 20-minute run, so it was a little unexpected to see a random sub 7-minute time making its way around on TikTok and YouTube. It was then also seen on the leaderboards on speedrun.com, but then taken down a day later. So what happened? Well, let's take a look at the run first. We start off by them loading in the run, and as you see the first player here, as soon as they open their eyes, they go ahead, emote laying down, and their teammate jumps on top of them, and then all of a sudden they go flying all the way up to the top of the shore, landing pretty much perfectly where the campfire is. When they fall all the way down, they take a ton of fall damage, which seems to get healed instantly. This is kind of huge red flag number 1, but we'll get to that later. After he gets back up, you can also see the Scoutmaster here. This will be important for something later, but he revives his teammate and then they head to the campfire. Once the campfire is lit, they do the same thing again, where one player lays down and the other jumps on top of them. They get sent flying all the way to the top of the next campfire at the top of the tropics. Here again, you can see they miraculously get healed of the fall damage that would have killed them. They then run to the statue to revive their teammate, no Scoutmaster this time, and after the res, it's just rinse and repeat. They light the campfire, jump on top, get launched to the top of the alpine, and then get full healed again. In this section, it takes their teammate a really long time to die for the res. Still during this time, no Scoutmaster. Still very important to mention that. Eventually, after a whole minute, he's finally able to revive his teammate. They light the campfire, and then this time they get launched all the way to the finish line. Take a quick note of how he just randomly stops here as if he's hitting a wall. We'll get to that. But from there, he just runs up to the top, lights the flare, and that is GG's for the run, getting 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, so there is a ton to unpack for this run. Starting off, the run claimed to have found a glitch where one person would lay down, the other would then crouch and spam jump and also click, which would send the person flying that was lying down. I guess the idea behind this was that when you have someone emoting and then you try and bounce them up with the crouch strat, that this creates some sort of glitch that sends them flying to the top. But in reality, this just isn't real. Several players, including ourselves, have tried this after the video was released and just could not get the glitch to work. They then claimed that it was patched and that's why you can no longer do it. Alright, a little fishy. It seems kind of legit until you go on SteamDB and see that no patch was made that day that would have fixed this glitch. The only 2 patches you see on this day have to do with assets. The video was also released after these patches, but I'm not saying that it couldn't have been done beforehand. So let's dig a little deeper. I put on a very accessible no clipping mod that would allow me to fly similar to how seen in the video. When looking at this and replicating it like the video, it almost looks identical. Especially here on the final climb where you can see my arm movement and leg movement look very, very similar to the video. So we can chalk this up to a simple fly mod, but we have so much more to nitpick and talk about on why this run is so obviously cheated. Let's touch on this weird thing we see where they are getting full health right after taking a ton of fall damage that would have killed them. They claim that the reason they're not dying to the fall is because of a health regeneration glitch where the Scoutmaster who spawns when you get too far away from your crew will give you max stamina again, which supposedly heals you because of that. This is just a load of barnacles. The Scoutmaster does not give you full stamina. The only time this actually happens is when you use the Scoutmaster Bugle, which will give you full stamina and spawn in the Scoutmaster, but it won't heal you. But even if this was the case, why did we not see the Scoutmaster any of the other times when he was full healed at the top of the mountain? We of course saw him at the shore, but nowhere in the video, on the tropics, alpine, or peak did we see the Scoutmaster. Huge red flag number 2, really just pointing to this run being cheated. Next, I want to talk about how they are just stopping perfectly at the peak. Nowhere are they hitting any sort of wall, and there is varying distance on every one of the launches. Because the launch in the caldera and kiln will be much longer than the launch to the top of the shore. Additionally, at the final launch at the peak, you see him get stopped here, but there is literally nothing to stop you. There's no wall. He just perfectly kills all of his momentum that he had. He doesn't slow down perfectly. It's very choppy. And I even went and flew over to double check that there is no wall here. The rest of the things I have to point out are very little just speedrun things that most speedrunners for peak should know. And you can just tell that there is just some sort of lack of knowledge here, which is common amongst most cheaters in any speedrun game. First off, we see multiple times that they decide to grab the marshmallow instead of lighting the campfire first. The reason you always want to light the campfire first is because that is your time loss. That is what prevents you from moving on to the next area. It's just simple time save, whereas if they light the campfire first, then grab the marshmallow, they will save seconds off their run. They also decide not to bring the flare that is given to them in the plane at the start. Most speedrunners know that you can take this flare and throw it early so that you don't have to climb to the absolute peak of the mountain. This would have saved them also like 30 seconds of time. Because all he would have had to do is land, light the flare, and toss it and stay in one place. You don't even have to climb to the top with this. The scorecard is another big indicator that they cheated. You can see on the scorecard there's the 3 sections where they moved pretty much perfectly flat, and the only way to move like this is by using this fly mod. If this glitch was done under normal momentum, the ending scorecard would actually have more like curved peaks rather than super straight up sharp peaks, and then it just wouldn't have this super flat line for a long distance. And just overall, the run seems really relaxed. They're not really pressed for time, it seems. At one point, they just stop and check on their mic settings because I think they thought their mic wasn't being recorded, which it wasn't, but that's really not a big deal for a speedrun. But just the fact you're, stopping for it in the middle of the run is a little strange. And one small note to end on is that the second player's POV was for some reason deleted. And so we don't actually get to see how this other player died. This just adds to the lack of evidence that this was a legit run. But I'm pretty sure with everything I've said so far, you can confidently say that this was cheated using the fly mod and some sort of god mode. And now I kind of just want to go through the comments as there's a lot of just goofy stuff that people say here. Here in the pinned comment, we have Damp saying, actually you could tell how easily it's fake. The boost doesn't make any sound sometimes as you activate the fly hack too quickly. Which is a very valid point. I mean, it's, again, clearly a fly hack. But we have CMAC Official, which I can only assume is his teammate saying, it was patched, it was a glitch. Y'all kids need to find your own method instead of writing big paragraphs about something you obviously know nothing about. Very good point, CMAC, except for the fact, again, that the patch did not have anything to do with this glitch. It was just about the assets. Here we have Pebble also mentioning that it was patched in a day, and there's something up with the video because there's no other POV because it was deleted. When Damus asks CMAC to point out the patch notes, CMAC gets defensive again, saying, said it in another comment, genius, I'm not explaining basic game patching to every goober. So obviously this guy's just trolling. Just off of his behavior, it's obviously fake. And I mean, this kind of behavior is just comical. I also think it's funny how this comment was made. Even if the run wasn't cheated using a fly mod from Thunderstore Run, it is invalid because you don't have a speedrun timer that counts milliseconds. And then the poster only comments on the speedrun timer saying, this game, you don't need a speedrun timer. It's coming from the moderator for peak speedruns. It's only the time at the end. Completely ignores the fact of being called out for a fly mod. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, leave a sub. And if you want to watch real speedruns or challenges, go ahead and leave a follow on the Twitch. I'm usually live every day, but I'm actually going on vacation this week. However, I'll be back soon. Thank you all. I appreciate you watching. Always have, always will.